let us know a bit about you.
Right.
Yeah, let's start there. Like, who are you? How does life currently look for you?
Right. So when people ask me generally, well, tell us a bit about you, I tend to pause and I think to myself, well, what do you want me to be? And there's a reason for that. Because for so long I was just a mom. I was just a mother, and I panicked when people would ask me, because I felt like there was something wrong with that. I felt like it defined me. It stripped me of a lot of what I had achieved, of a lot of what I was good at, and just a mom seemed like a really lame thing. And so I really struggled with titles. And then on the other hand, they're kind of the people, or you're sitting in a group, or you're watching a presentation, and they say, we're just going to introduce so and so, and that person is CEO of 3 companies, and they've got a degree, master's degree, 2 master's degrees. They speak 5 languages. They learn sign language during their lunch times. They volunteer for 3 organizations, blah, 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 blah. And often I kind of immediately feel like I don't relate to who these people are. It's not relatable. So when people say, well, who are you? I am Leonora. I'm 52 years of age, and I'm relatable. And connecting with people is important to me. And making people feel comfortable wherever they're at, whatever their title, is what's most important to me. And I think a lot of what I do now, a lot of my story comes from who am I, and learning to love who I am, where I'm at. And that can really be difficult for some people.
Yeah, it really can.
So, if I start with what I like to say actually is my most important role, it is being a mother. I am a mother. I have 3 children. My daughter is 24, my son is 21, and then I've got a teenager, he's 15. And just note to all, you can be a mother, a parent of a teenager, for 5 teenagers, 10 teenagers, and you still won't get it right, because you still start the journey and you go, I have no clue what I'm doing. So that's where I'm with the teenagers.
And every child's different. So, I mean, you can think you've nailed it with one, and then you get a curveball.
The thing is, you think that it's going to be an easy ride, and it's not. So anyway, I am a mother. It is an important role, and it's one that I actually celebrate. And I'm constantly learning, constantly growing. All the hats that I wear as a mum, it's made me who I am today. But so if we go back a little bit, I have a degree in organizational psychology and communications, and I did my stint working in the corporate world, and then we decided to start a family, and I was like, yay. And I was lucky enough not to have to work, not to have to add to the pot. My husband could support us, and it was my opportunity to just launch myself into parenting and to also explore my creative side. And I have a massive creative side. There are lots of things I love to do. In fact, there are lots of things I like to do. And so I'll just throw myself into everything. And that's what I did. But along the way, along the journey of parenting, I did lose sight of who I was. I lost sight of my identity. I found myself quite often at work events with my husband, and people would ask me what I do. I find it funny when people say, what do you do? I actually find that, what I do, I change nappies, or, I'm a taxi driver. What do you do?
What don't you do, actually?
Actually, that's a better one. Yeah. Actually, that's what one should say is, what don't I do? But I found I was with these corporate people, and I was like, I'm just a mum, and it's not the place to then go, I do this and this and this and this and this. And I felt like if I was doing that, I was actually almost trying to like justify what I do, and I had this real sense that the world was passing me by. And we'd chosen this was what I was going to do, and I did enjoy it. I threw myself into it with passion, and but I felt like the world was passing me by.
Mm-hmm.
And what I now know is that I wasn't self-aware. I wasn't intentional about me. And it's not a case of, well, in a way, Laura, I actually felt like it was like, if I looked at what I need, I was being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the tools or the know-how to ask for what I needed. And I very much felt like I had to put on this front that I had it all together. I am a perfectionist by nature, and I like to get it right. But it was quite interesting that as I carried on in this role, and I felt like I'd lost my confidence, I'd lost my purpose, and I lost my identity. It was even more important that I was nailing parenting, and I was nailing running my home, and I did it with all the finesse, and I was never tired, and my children were well mannered, and they were, excelling at school. So as my confidence dropped in terms of who I was and my purpose and my identity, I pushed it all into being perfect in every other area,
Mm-hmm.
Which wasn't right, because actually I wasn't coping, and I was struggling, and I wasn't actually being real, and there was a total lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I didn't focus on my own vision. What was the vision for Leonora?
Yeah.
What did I want to achieve for me? Because what I was doing is I was wanting to create the best life for my husband, for my children, for our home, but I actually wasn't looking at what was the best for me.
Mm. And I think that's so
yeah.
common, so common. Like, it's not something we talk about, though.
No, it's not. And I have to actually remind myself that it's common, because there are many times where I think, oh, will my story have an impact on others? Will other people resonate with it? No, I'm definitely the only person who ever experienced that in my life. Nobody else experienced it. And I do find I still go and align myself with people who worked and parented, and I took the easy way out. And so, and it wasn't the easy way out. It really, really wasn't. And so this carried on, and then we moved country. So I'm South African, and we've been living in the UK now for 10 years. And I didn't want to move to the UK because I was really happy living in South Africa. And my daughter was 14, my son was probably 9, and Josh was 4. And we moved across here. And then I gave even less to myself, because then it was about getting my family settled and finding school and finding friends for my children. And actually through my coaching, but through training as a coach, I actually realized that I went through grieving in that time. I always associated grief with loss and death, but actually I went through the definite stages of grief during that time, of losing a lot of what I had in South Africa.
Yeah.
So again, it knocked my confidence again, it set me back. And although I did definitely achieve, and I'm not going to go into what I achieved during, there's times of parenting where I wasn't working, and we're not going to debate what working is there. We're not going to go there, because we know what mums do.
Yeah.
But so in that time, I lost my confidence again, and COVID then came.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at that stage, my daughter had just left for university, and I was starting to have a little bit more space and a little bit of time to consider what my needs were. And COVID hit, and I had daughter who came home, son who was writing his A-levels, son who was now going to be homeschooled, and then the boyfriend came and stayed with us as well. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just going to be a disaster for me. What about me?
Yeah.
What about me?
What about me?
And what about me? And it was the first time that I really said, if you don't look at what about you, you're actually you're going to become the housemaid. You're going to become the dog's body. You're going to become the person who picks up all the pieces physically, emotionally, and you definitely are not going to be stepping into what you need.
No, and you're going to be resentful, possibly burnt out.
And then, of course, burnt out, then you feel guilt.
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, then there's a whole lot of guilt that comes in, and I don't know why there is guilt. As soon as us mothers start looking at ourselves and what we need, then you feel guilty, because, you know, we don't go to that place. We don't go straight to that place, if at all. And it is so, so important. Yeah. If it's the biggest thing that I can tell to mothers who just starting out on their journey, and I've often thought about it, and I thought when Michaela was born, she was my life and my everything, and I just was so excited. I was happy to step off the corporate treadmill. I was so happy to do that. She was my life, and I wonder what the older me now would say to that younger me. But I wonder what I would have taken on, because I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
But I think I would tell that person from a different perspective, from a kind perspective of how important it is to look out for you and what you need.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I did that. So I had then my first experience of coaching. I joined someone who was very clever and jumped on the let's go live, let's do Zoom, let's do Instagram, let's do it all live. And I joined a free coaching masterclass, which happened, I think, over 4 Fridays or something. And I moved the needle forward so much for me. And I felt there was someone there listening to me and like acknowledging and drawing alongside me and going, yes, I hear you. And suddenly there was a little bit of what's the word, approval, a little bit of like pat on your back. And I'm going to tell you a funny story, Laura. I think when my daughter was about 10, I said to my husband, could you write me a performance appraisal? And he went, what? I said, yeah, could you write me a performance appraisal? Because I need to know how I'm faring in this role that I'm doing, because nobody tells me that. I don't work as part of a team, you know, I just do. And I just need, you know, and he wrote me this, I actually need to draw it out sometime, but he wrote me this, you know, she hasn't taken any sick leave. She meets all targets. She's brilliant in this area. She might need to improve in that area, which I loved. I loved that, because I just felt like actually here is someone who really is acknowledging me and giving me what I need to progress, to push myself forward, to improve, because I want to improve, you know. And so he gave me that performance appraisal. But anyway, so coaching just made me realize, actually, I'm good with connecting with people. And I have a story to tell that can make a difference to other people. And so I very quickly decided to train as a coach. And I used COVID. I first did a coaching and counseling course through an academy in the Netherlands, because I wanted coaching and counseling. But then I decided that actually I wanted more coaching. And if you want me to tell you the difference, I will. But I then did another qualification in coaching. And that's where I am today.
Yeah.
Living my best life.
Living your best life. Yeah. Sorry. Do you know what? Can you see this on the camera? I've got this little fly.
No.
Sorry. I have just snapped him in my hands. Sorry.
The little guy.
Yeah. Little guy was getting in on the app there. But that is such a powerful point, that you had to press that pause button. Think about, bring yourself into the room as such and go, hang on, like something, it's time. Like this feels like it was the right time for you. And you took that bit of time and then acted. And then that's now led you down this new path.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, who are the sort of women that now you're talking to that are coming to you, and what are they coming to you talking about, without giving away obviously anything confidential?
Well, it's quite interesting, because one of the things that we as coaches do, or any business person does, you're looking for your niche. Who's your ideal niche? And I have struggled with this. Who is the niche? Because there's a big part of me who would love to speak to people who are starting their journey out and actually draw alongside them to look at ways they can focus on themselves. And if I could just talk into that, Laura, just for a little bit, because when you start that journey, it is full on. And especially when number 2 comes along, now you juggling number 1, who's been a center of attention for so long. Now you've got number 2, who's much more dependent on you, and you're juggling all of those things, and it's hard. It's really, really hard, and you're just trying to stay alive. So how on earth could I, fit in? My sister's really hilarious. She often sends me pictures of Zen me, having these mindfulness breaks. And she goes, how on earth can a mother fit that in? Well, there are ways. One just has to be open and curious to what that looks like for you. What does it look like for you? And what do you need in order to make that happen in your life? And with just a few questions, you can start small and instill small things into your life where you can create a little bit of me time. And then when you stack that bit of me on that little bit of me and that middle me, overall, you're going to keep focusing on yourself going forward, and not suddenly after 10, 15 years go, oh my gosh, well, that was a season. Now, what about me? Now I'm going to scrape myself off the ground and look at what's my purpose, what's left for me. How do I start again? Well, if you start small, then you don't have to start again. You're just continuing, So part of me would be to speak to those women. Majority of my clients are midlife, mid to later life, who have identified with that story of now what. So my children I like to speak to women who are in transition. So maybe children are leaving home, they're going to university, people who are wanting a fresh start from a career point of view, people who've had health issues and now have to change direction. So transition is the key here. And then to help them to tap into their values, their beliefs, their needs, and their purpose. And to then fast forward to look at, well, what do I want? What do I want to feel at the end of that? And I find, and that's one of the things that happened to me, and that was quite funny, because coaching brought me into, I'm going to use the word woo-woo, because I never used to be woo-woo. I was like, woo-woo, okay, let's go the other direction. And the exercise this coach did with me was she said, right, everybody, we were in this group session, and she said, I want to close your eyes, and I want to picture yourself in a rocket, and you're climbing on the rocket, and the rocket's shooting you off into space, and you're going to meet future Leonora. Future Leonora, what is she doing? Now, this is pre my coaching experience. I had no coaching experience, nothing. Going to the future, meet this person. And I had my eyes closed, and I was going, what a load of rubbish this is. I'd never done visualization before. This is nonsense. I can't even see myself now. Am I going to see myself then? Ha ha, she's got curlers in her hair. She's got a very big, ugly gown on, that kind of thing. I was doing that kind of thing. Anyway, exercise finished, and I came back and I gave a little bit of constructive feedback. That was it. The next day, I'll never forget, I was sitting in my garden and this picture popped into my mind again, forward thinking. And the things that came to mind was, what do you want to be feeling? So then I thought, well, what am I feeling right now? Well, I'm feeling flat, unfulfilled, unmotivated, don't know where I'm going. So maybe I can't see what that woman looks like, and what's around her, and what her house looks like, and what her children. Maybe I can't see that, but I know what I'd like to be feeling. It's not what I'm feeling now. Well, that's interesting. And so I now use visualization a lot, and I go back to that picture quite often. How do I want to feel? And often I realize that how I want to feel is not what I feel right now. So what am I going to do to get there? And I liken it as an invisible thread between now and the future, because we all got some kind of future, whether it's an hour or tomorrow or the next day. How would I like to feel, and how am I going to move towards that? Yeah. And that keeps me focused. Yeah. So to answer your question, sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there, but to answer your question, I find a lot of women I work with are there at that place of what more? Is there more? You know, and I want to get excited about my life. I want to live for something beyond what's here and now.
Yeah. And does that therefore, you've been talking about the sort of the vision, the version of you in the future,
The curlers in the hair.
Yeah. But
that one.
And then is it, I mean, how do you then enjoy the ride as such? How about, every day either helping you focus on that version of you you're moving towards, or enjoy the journey and make the most of that, rather than always be striving for the future you?
So yeah, so this is also come out of what I've learned as a coach. Some other really things that is particular to me, but maybe helpful to others. But I'm a driven person, so it's always goal orientated. So whether if it was a mother and going down that route, I was driving it, and I'm always driving to tick everything off my tick list and achieve. And what I didn't do was appreciate the moment, appreciate the here and now. And one of the things that I have found an interest in is positive psychology, neuroscience, and positive intelligence, which I'm currently being certified through, because it gives you an operating system to do just that. So our lives are made up of good and bad, and the bad will be the stresses that come up. It could be our own internal stress, our own anxieties, and at the moment I'm like a hormonal roller coaster, because I'm experiencing hormones I never knew I had. And sometimes I'm feeling down, sometimes I'm feeling up, sometimes I'm feeling frustrated, sometimes I'm feeling sad. I actually had a tear this morning for no reason. You have all these experiences. You may react badly to your partner, to your children. We have these negative emotions that we experience, and they're important, because when you have a negative emotion, it alerts you that something needs to give, something needs to change, something needs attention. So negative emotion is not a bad thing, and we don't try and get rid of it. We go, hang on, there's something there I need to take note of. And one of the things that I like to talk about is we live in a world now where fitness is really important. Health and fitness is important, but so is mental fitness. Mm-hmm. And part of mental fitness is acknowledging those things that come up and sabotage us, but then pausing. And you used the word pause earlier, pausing in the here and now to appreciate the here and now, because but otherwise you're going to be driving all the time, driving towards that place of what I want to achieve, who I want to be, what I want to become, what I want to earn, whatever. You're always driving there. But if you're building the gratitudes and the appreciations and what you've achieved in the here and now, then you're going to have a greater success, and you're going to live fulfillment in the here and now. And for someone like me who's is driven and has perfectionistic tendencies and that kind of thing, I've missed that a lot. I've skipped that step, and that leads to burnout and exhaustion. So I now practice that every day. And shout out to you, Laura. I have to just say this to you. So I love my little to-do list and my little checklists and my little motivational diaries, and in them they have these little what are your gratitudes? And they give you that amount of space to write your gratitude in it. Or, what would you like to do better today? And they give you that amount of space. And because I follow the rules and I'm task oriented, I'd write it in there. I'll try and get it squashed in. Whereas actually I'm, thinking outside the box, I now write reams and I write not about what I've done, what I haven't achieved today, which would have been the old me, right? What I haven't achieved, but actually what I could do better for tomorrow. How am I going to move the needle forward by changing something today that didn't go so well, so it can be better tomorrow? And then reflecting back on that. So a lot of what I do is reflecting back on the wins, and how I've grown. And if we go back to my story, well, that story of being a mom who'd lost identity, felt like the world was going past her, hadn't really focused on me. Well, how has that contributed to where I am and what I'm doing today? And it's a lot. That, you know, why I am doing what I do today is all because of that.
Our stories are such a powerful part of life, and sharing them, I think that that's why I'm doing more of these, is because I think if one person just is listening and doesn't feel so alone, because sometimes you think, well, yeah, I mean, others might look at me and think, I've got it all, or you might think, well, if I'd done this differently, and there's always those, either the guilt or the I wishes, but all you've got is to actually go, okay, well, where am I now, and how can I feel more fulfilled? How can I bring me more into the center of the picture? Because it's not selfish. It benefits everyone, doesn't it? It benefits everyone in your life if you are happier in yourself.
I'll tell you a little story that just came to mind now. Is my middle child struggled the most when we moved from South Africa, and he really struggled to make friends. And I think he was about 16, and he said something to me which is quite profound. He said to me, "Mom, I feel like I'm playing a game of cards and I've been dealt this hand, and it's not a nice hand, and everybody else has got a really good hand, but I'm playing the game and my hand is not going to win me." And we spoke about that, and we thought, well, he came to his own kind of conclusion to this. He said, "But I know there are two jokers in the pack, Mom, and I might get that joker. And actually, I'm really glad that I'm part of this game, because I can be strategic with my moves, and I can, rearrange my cards. Am I going to go for the hearts or the spades, or am I going to go for all the aces or all the whatever? And I have the ability to shuffle those cards and play the game I want to play." And I thought it was so important to see that we do get dealt a hand of cards, and for some it's not always pleasant.
No.
It's not always pleasant, but actually it's our hand, it's not anybody else's hand, and we can actually play with the hand we've got.
Yeah. And if you are fortunate enough, if you're privileged enough to have those options to make changes in your life, then seize them. I mean, that's it, because not everyone has that.
No.
And it's not,
and if they don't, that is one of the reasons I want to share my story, and I want to talk to people, and I want to connect with people, because you also used the word lonely earlier, and people can be lonely in whatever they do. And what we see at the school gate, what we see when we check out at a checkout and paying somebody, you don't know what people's story is. You don't know what they are, and I think, we live in a world where we just like posts and just scroll through things. Well, where's the connection? Where's the telling the story? Where's the real listening? I mean, one of the skills as a coach is to literally listen. Well, when I pour out my story to someone who really, really listens with empathy and understanding and curiosity, and you feel heard, well, that moves the needle forward for you, and that's part of playing the hand. That's what it is about,
Yeah, we all deserve that. We all deserve to have that. You've talked a bit about the mental fitness side of things. I mean, how has that helped you in terms of things like maybe limiting beliefs or patterns of behavior? Because we all get drawn into that, don't we? I mean,
so again, I was like, oh, what's all of this about? What is this grounding in the present, because a lot of mental fitness is, and it's what I teach people, is to reduce the strength of those saboteurs that come. You acknowledge them, you reduce them, and then you turn those things into an opportunity. So one of the things he says is you imagine that negative, that person who's done wrong to you, poor health, a job that you're not happy in. How can you take these things and turn them into positive without it being toxic positivity? Because it's not about being toxic. It's about using those things as almost like your best friend, because it's going to sharpen you and take the steps to move you forward. So with mental fitness, it's about going, actually acknowledge those things. How do I go about using my mental muscles? Because the brain is, the term neuroplasticity, our brains change. Well into our 90s, you can actually change the pathways of your brain, and you can rewire them. Instead of saying, oh, I lack confidence, I don't have what it takes to, which was my story for a long time. I don't have what it takes to. I could never go live and talk to someone like you for X amount of time. I could never do that. I don't have the confidence to do that. So I'm just going to tell myself that story, and then my brain's going to believe it, and then my brain's going to look for all the reasons to confirm that I can't do that. And that's what mental fitness tries to undo, is to going, actually, now I'm going to use the power of this muscle to actually stop, pause, breathe. I teach sort of exercises we do to do that, and then to tap into what we call a sage power. The sage perspective. It's kind of like your Luke Skywalker kind of thing, if you're a Star Wars fan, and actually use the tools to look at the things that go wrong in your life, the things that sabotage you, with empathy, with curiosity, to navigate through difficult times, to explore and to approach these things from a different perspective. And just with 5 simple tools that you use daily. But it's about, if I go to the gym, Laura, once, I'm not going to build that muscle. This flabbiness that I carry down there is going to remain flabby unless I actually go and do that. In fact, I need to do more of that than this, because I do plenty of this.
It's about getting balance.
But you have to, so if we look at some struggles are small, some are big. Well, you're never going to be able to manage the big struggles if you can't manage the small ones. But it's about consistently working at it. I don't know if that answers the question of you.
Yeah, no, I think it does. It's because we can often, I think, you're right, we can get wrapped up in those limiting beliefs and hold ourselves back, tell ourselves, as create another story for ourselves about why we can't do it, or why we can't show up or change or try something new.
I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll give you just a teeny little example here. So my daughter and I, at the moment, she's very stressed with the wedding coming up. I'm mother of the bride, very stressed going on, all happening. And one of the things that we teach is and her and I lock horns a bit. We do, mother-daughter relationship, is to, when someone's telling you something, and when someone tells you something and you kind of like go, don't agree with you. Don't agree with what you're saying. No, I'm now starting to tell, in my mind, I'm working out the answer to that negative, that thing you're saying that I don't agree with. But actually is to in the here and now, with the tools, with the mental fitness, is to think 10% of what you're saying is right. I'm going to believe, so I believe everyone, at least 10% of the message someone is giving me that I don't know, I'm going to go into that with 10% is right. And then look at the 10%. So then I reply to you, even though I actually am not loving the idea you're presenting to me, I go, Laura, what I like about that idea is, and I find a positive to say about that idea. Well, it immediately is tapping into that positive mindset, the sort of the empathetic, kind of side of me. It's and those emotions start to track. Your response to me is, ooh, I thought she was going to come in and attack me with a negative, because I know what she's like. that's the kind of thing she's going to do. She's going to disagree on this. Oh, she didn't. And then you go, oh, so you come better. And then I'm going to go, but I also thought of X, Y, Z, and it just changes the whole narrative. So that's just an example. And it's not going into the how we get to be doing that, because there's the how to get to do that.
Yeah.
But it's just an example of turning things around, where you're reducing the negative, have a tool to ground you in the now, and thinking, actually, I do like something you're saying, and we build neural pathways.
Yes. And so, yeah, it's benefiting you and it's benefiting other people. I mean, it's the knock-on effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're so, it is. We can easily just react and respond in a way that we've always done it, whether it's to other people or to ourselves, to whatever we're telling ourselves.
And that's a pattern. That's a pattern that we just do, and it becomes automatic. It's like driving to fetch your kids from school. How much do you actually think about it? You don't. You just drive the route, and that's what happens in our brains all the time. So we need to have the things in place to go, stop. Where's this going to lead? I know where this is going to lead, so let's change it. And that's where the building the muscle, because it's a muscle that we have to build in order to stop the saboteurs taking control.
Yeah.
We call it the power of self-command. You are commanding your brain to stop, to pause in the here and now, and to choose differently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's taking the power back, isn't it, a bit from our brains, which have a tendency to spiral off down their own little path.
And you know what, I'm going to tell you a little bit about something again, which, had I known all of this when my children were young, I would have taught my children to do this at a young age, because I totally believe and all my kids have been through this stuff. I've taught them the stuff now that they're older and they're using it in their lives. But I think you can teach 9-10-year-olds how to stop, look at things differently, and then make better decisions going forward before it becomes a conflict.
Yeah. If someone is listening or watching this today or afterwards, Leonora, and they are resonating with some of the things you're saying, either about being in that sort of midlife transition point, or having a moment of realization that maybe they've lost touch with themselves a little bit and their sense of identity, where do you think is a good place to start? What small steps, because it can feel overwhelming. We're talking about all of this stuff, we're quite into it, but for people that are new to that journey, or feel some resistance, which is understandable,
Totally.
Where can they start, do you think?
So without any training, without any app. So
just as of tomorrow, just maybe do like what one little thing or a couple of little things could start to move the needle as we talk about.
So the first thing I would say is, I'm going to say, please trust me on this. Please just trust me. We have 5 senses, okay? And they are so important to us. And if you just literally take 3 breaths to either look at something. So I find if I'm working at my desk, I can look outside and I will focus on something outside, some form of nature, because it's just, I like looking out my window, and I say 3 breaths because that's all it takes. 1 breath is not enough, but to focus on something. So let's say I'm looking at a flower outside right now. So I focus on that flower and I go, oh, that's such a beautiful flower. Move on. No, I'm not doing that. I'm focusing on the flower and I'm going to go, that flower is beautiful. Jeepers, look how pink and beautiful it is. That was a bud before that. Oh my gosh, before that, there was nothing there because it was barren in winter and it was quite bleak and barren. Look at the growth that's come out of that. And taking the 3 breaths to actually pause, what it does is not only are you visually stimulated by what you're seeing, you're then appreciating the growth that's come out of that. and you're taking time out of everything else that's going on. You're reducing the noise of everything that's going on. I sometimes do that, Laura, when like in the midst of a craziness that's going on in the home for whatever reason, you know, slamming door because teenagers upset with me or whatever, I'll just stop. Nobody even knows that I'm taking time out, taking 3 breaths, and I just stop. And that's self-command. It's just appreciating something. It could be something that somebody's given you. It could be smelling the scent of a candle that's burning. It could be appreciating the chocolate that you've pulled out of your drawer. Instead of just gobbling the chocolate up and feeling guilty that you shouldn't have done it, go, actually, done it now. Really, that tastes so good. And thinking about the different tastes you have. It's just slowing your mind down enough to reduce the noise and appreciate something that's in the here and now. And you do that, you build that in as a practice, like brushing your teeth. It will have a positive effect on you going forward.
Yeah. And then it goes from there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You start to bring in one thing and then something else brings it in. We are going to be talking a bit more about this, aren't we, Leonora? We're going to be doing a session actually in about 2 weeks' time. Leonora is going to be coming into our membership group, and there will be some guest places available as well for people to join us. But we're going to spend an evening talking a bit more about this idea of saboteurs and understanding, aren't we, sort of how that might be affecting us and what that all means. So yeah, we are doing it. We're doing it.
You're doing it, and I'd like to make it as interactive as possible, Laura, so people can get something out of it. You know, I wanted someone to work with me, and we go, I have nothing that sabotages me, and I was like flummoxed. I said, really? Do you never get mad? Do you never, you know, do you never get frustrated? Never lose your cool? Because if you can say that, well, then I need to come and step into your world.
Yeah. We need to know what you're doing. Yeah.
But it's hard to identify them and be okay with them, and then what we can do, small steps.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it'll be lots of interactive and people can ask me lots of questions. I can't guarantee that I'll have any of the answers, but I might have some.
You'll have some. No one's got all the answers. That's what we know. No one's got all the answers. So yeah, that is going to be coming up. I'll share the details of that for anyone that's interested. Leonora, I could talk to you all day, but we did promise ourselves we would try and keep it around 45 minutes, which I think we've done. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share, or anything that I have not drawn from our conversation?
No, I love talking to you, Laura, and I just hope that I've sown a little seed of thought somewhere. And yeah, if anybody would love to come and ask me questions in your membership, I'm happy to answer. Because I'm just happy to help people make change and hop on that rocket ship and go into outer space with me.
Yes, because we deserve to be living, you know,
our best lives.
The best life we can. And yeah, that sometimes means having a bit of support and feeling seen and heard is part of that. So thank you, Leonora. I've loved chatting with you. I'm going to share all your details as well. Anyone that's watched us, let me just double check in the Facebook group. I'll just double check. What? Sorry, I haven't been checking Facebook because I've been so busy chatting away to Leonora. Let's see if I have. Oh, Sarah's been watching us. Yeah, Sarah says coaching brought me to the woo too. Yeah, we've got some lovely people watching us. Thank you so much if you've been watching us. If you are coming back to this on catch up or watching it on YouTube, do let us know if you've got any questions or comments. I can pass them to Leonora, and yeah, hopefully see some of you at the session in a few weeks. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Leonora.